What's going on, guys? I'm Sega Lord X, and in this episode we're going to be taking a look at motorcycle racing games for the Sega Saturn. There's not a lot of them on there, but there are a couple of good ones. Let's get started. Road Rash, or Road Rash 32-bit as it's often called, was originally released on the 3DO console in early 1994 by Electronic Arts. Ports would later land on the PlayStation 1, Saturn, and PC throughout 1996. This was the continuation of the popular Genesis combat racing game on motorcycles. The premise would be simple: choose a rider and defeat 5 stages of varying length across 5 difficulty levels. You'll battle 15 other riders along the way, all of you trying to avoid crashing and being arrested. Despite its over-the-top presentation and silly art style, there is a serious racing game here. Stages get longer as you go up in level, increasing the chances of a bad wreck at an inopportune time. You also can buy better and faster bikes with your winnings, allowing you to compete better. With that extra speed and power comes the chances of wrecking far more often, making those longer tracks a real challenge. The graphics and sound here are really strong. Road Rash on the Saturn is a mostly smooth experience with a great sense of speed. The licensed rock soundtrack fits the game like a glove, with only the in-game sound effects coming up a bit short compared to the original 3DO release. There are truly timeless games that remain playable no matter how much they age, and Road Rash here is one of them. It's challenging, fast, and has an attitude all its own. No matter which version you are drawn to, it's a must-own game I highly recommend for your collection.
Hang On GP 1995.
Dropping in late 1995 and developed by Genki was Hang On GP 1995, a game I had been very much looking forward to. It was the first 3D polygon motorcycle racing game for the Saturn, and a continuation of one of Sega's most beloved arcade franchises. It looked the part too. The textures were a huge improvement over the Daytona USA port, as was much of the draw-in and the frame rate. It isn't a bad looking game at all from a purely technical perspective, and even the soundtrack is halfway decent. Hang On GP 95 would fall short in a number of areas, however. First was the game's sense of speed, which was nearly non-existent. The game felt fast around sharp turns, but once you got on straightaways, it felt sluggish and unexciting. The physics engine was a joke too, as hitting anything from the other racers to the walls resulted in ping-ponging all over the track unrealistically, even for an arcade racer. The grip mechanic was also difficult to come to terms with, feeling neither natural or particularly fun. Track selections were typical Sega arcade style, meaning you got only a handful. They were varied and looked good, the game's lone strength. Hang On was one of Sega's early powerhouse racers in the arcade, and I'm surprised this wasn't given more TLC. A few more months in development and it could have been an outstanding experience. As it stands, however, it's definitely a miss on the system.
Manx TT Superbike.
Early in 1997, the Sega Saturn would get a port of the Model 2 arcade motorcycle racing extravaganza, Manx TT Superbike. Perfect Entertainment and Tantalus Interactive would join forces for the port, doing an admirable job in creating the original, which was based on the Isle of Man TT races. Manx TT would lose some of the detail from the arcade version and run at only half the frame rate, but kept the overall look and feel. Most importantly, it feels fast and plays well, the original game's two main strengths. Environment draw-in is good in most areas of the track, with only a handful of straightaways and wide areas suffering greatly. The soundtrack here is nothing special, lacking the overall personality of other racers like Daytona and Sega Rally, but still giving you a listenable backdrop to the action. Manx TT is also one of the few Saturn games that benefit incredibly from the use of the Saturn 3D control pad. The grip mechanic feels far more responsive with it, allowing you to get better, faster. You can win with a regular Saturn controller, but if you have the analog pad, I definitely recommend it. Where Manx TT falls short is in its replayability. You get just 2 tracks here, and additional modes are slim to none. This impacts the game's longevity, as only the TT course offers any real lasting challenge. You are left with a sense that had Sega made just 1 or 2 more custom tracks, this could have helped the game immensely. What's here is solid though, and a damn good arcade racing experience. It isn't Sega Rally, but it's a damn sight better than Hang On GP 95. Our final game is one of the most curious pieces of software available for the Sega Saturn. It may also be the most expensive to collect. Delisoba Deluxe was originally developed by Cave and published by Tokyo Broadcasting System. It was made as a companion to a Japanese TV show called Tokyo Friend Park, which had contestants doing various crazy things to compete against one another. In the game here, you must deliver soba noodles to the TV studio audience, hence the name Delisoba, or Delivery Soba. This craziness from the land of the rising sun isn't much of a game, containing little more than a 1-stage demo of you avoiding dangers to complete the course. There is a time attack and a coin collecting option should you want a little something different, as well as a simple track editor. You can't deny the game's visual attraction here, however. It's incredibly smooth and looks better than most of the third-party racing games available for the system. You can't help but to think that had this engine been tied to a serious motorcycle racing game, it could have been something special. As it stands, this one has become a pure collector's item. It was never sold at retail, making its availability a point of contention with just about everyone. When it does show up for auction complete, it typically sells for crazy amounts of money, well often past $1,000. It's one of those items that the vast majority of you would never have been able to play, but thanks to the many methods available to play burned games now, you too can now play one of the Saturn's biggest oddities. I hope you guys enjoyed my episode on Sega Saturn motorcycle racing games. If you'd like to hear some more opinions on racing games, head on over to the Sega Saturn Shiro podcast and check out those guys. They have an episode this week on that very subject. I'm Sega Lord X. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you next time.